One of the most common occurrences of a conversation that people avoid that comes back to bite them is probably when you realise one of the technical resolving group members who is regularly engaged to deal with a major incident does not have the skill set, the capability or the attitude, or perhaps all of those things, to be supporting major incidents. And hello and welcome. My name's Adam Norman. I'm the CEO here at MIM. MIM's the professional body for IT major incident management, and we serve clients in over 95 countries around the world with our global best practice in IT major incident management. So thank you for joining me again today. I would like to talk about some really common mistakes that major incident managers make. Now, what I will say is mistakes are normal and they're human. None of us are perfect. So even the best performing major incident managers still make mistakes at times, or if they've had a long career, perhaps they forget some of the basics or they forget to keep developing. So don't be too hard on yourselves, but these are good things to know and good things to watch out for, particularly if you're new to major incident management, or equally if you've been doing it a long time. It's very easy for us to get complacent. So number one, forgetting that it is a leadership role. Major incident management is probably one of the truest leadership roles that exists in the commercial world, because we very rarely have the management responsibility and authority for the people we are leading, which means we are completely dependent on our skills as a leader to inspire people to want to follow our leadership. Now, there's a lot of things baked into leadership, but the main one I want to think about here is creating a vision. Now, I'm not talking about big strategic vision for the major incident practice or where you're headed in 3 to 5 years. I'm actually talking at a much more grassroots level, making sure everyone in the wider major incident team, meaning the technical resolving group members, the stakeholders, leadership, all understand the purpose of each major incident and how we all need to respond in line with that vision. So naturally, there's 2 parts to that. There is, within the primary objective, there is restoring normal service operation as quickly as possible via workaround or fix, but there is also maintaining stakeholder confidence. Now, even in that, there's so much to unpack. Everything from issuing really effective comms, making sure that VIPs or key stakeholders have some one-to-one contact where appropriate, making sure we keep control of the situation. So there's loads that goes into it. But when I say the leader needs to have and share a vision, what I mean is it's very easy, particularly for very skilled technical people who perhaps aren't regularly customer facing, to focus on the technologies. So it's no wonder that when we're running major incidents, it can be very easy, particularly for the more skilled technical people, to lose sight of the human-centric factor of what we are doing and why the stakeholders are important. We do need to allocate time, effort, energy and resources to bringing them on the journey with us. But they can only do that if you, as the major incident manager and as the leader, are continually reminding them of the why this is important. So this actually comes back, for me at least, this comes back to understanding commercial impacts and how people are actually affected, what they can't do and what that means for the business. So number one is having a vision that you share with the wider major incident team. Never forget that. And that can be as simple as explaining the why to everyone you're working with, as in why you need them to do a thing or why that thing or task is so important. People behave very differently when they understand the why. Number 2, lack of communication. So failing to communicate effectively with your team leads to all kinds of issues, misunderstandings, conflict, tasks, deadlines being missed. And when we talk about communication, again, we're talking at a surface level now, but there's many things that come into this, including the personality types and how you communicate with different personality types. But essentially, even being very clear and specific about what you want and what you need from people. Something as simple as letting the technical resolving group members know that when they have actions to complete, if there is a problem with those actions, they need to come back and inform you right away, because it means you can potentially prepare stakeholders for a lack of progress or slow progress that you had previously anticipated. So even when that goes wrong, you have the ability to keep control of the situation and look like you have control of the situation. Things won't always go right, and as long as we maintain control and we are diligent and we handle the situation, that's not actually necessarily a problem. It's when we get to an update time, we didn't know that we hadn't made progress, or that happened half an hour ago. The technical teams never thought to come and tell us. We didn't set the expectation and communicate to them that that was the standard. And then suddenly we issue an update that actually says we have no progress. We did promise, but that's not what's happened. We look like we're out of control, and it's happened at the update time. Perhaps you even send out update comms late. Avoiding difficult conversations. So this comes into a couple of things. This comes into the conversations that happen during major incidents, but also the conversations that happen or should be happening outside of major incidents. So a couple of good examples. There is absolutely a time and place to avoid conflict and pretend that something has not occurred. There are plenty of situations where that's an appropriate response, and all it's going to do is slow down the major incident. I think I've given this example before, but for example, if I'm running a bridge call and somebody were to come on that bridge call and say, Adam's a terrible major incident manager, he's absolutely useless, hopefully they won't, but someone comes on there and actually the team doing really well, we're really effective, that person is a non-contributor, but they don't say anything else afterwards. Is it really worth me having that battle at a time? What I'm actually going to do is slow down the major incident, its progress. Now, obviously, if they kept disrupting the line, I would need to be very firm and either offer a one-to-one call or remove them from the call. There's various courses of action. But that's one of the few examples where it's appropriate to avoid. A lot of these things, we have to think about how do we create win-win scenarios, and that does require difficult conversations and also trying to understand others' viewpoint on why they are fighting for their own view, idea, opinion and belief, and why that matters. And so we do need to have those conversations. I think one of the most common occurrences of a conversation that people avoid that comes back to bite them is probably when you realise one of the technical resolving group members who is regularly engaged to deal with a major incident does not have the skill set, the capability or the attitude, or perhaps all of those things, to be supporting major incidents. And instead of having a conversation with them or going to their line management, now we certainly want to do this appropriately and fairly. We're not trying to cause anyone's career a problem, but equally, a big part of our role is to protect the company when it needs us the most, and part of that is us being aware and diligent of the people engaged to deal with the major incidents and to support it. If somebody simply doesn't have the technical capability to do it, yet that's who the organisation keeps giving us, it is our responsibility to at least call that out to their line management and ask the question, I have noticed over several major incidents that this individual seems to really struggle to represent their technical discipline. Are you aware of this? Is this a problem that you know about or are doing something about, because it is impacting major incidents? So it's appropriate. but that's probably the most common one that people avoid. Others may be that there's tension between not even yourself as the major incident manager, but tension between other individuals who continually sharpen the major incident bridge call. And it may be appropriate for us to gently have conversations with those people and say, listen guys, we do need to work as a team. I'd like to understand why there seems to be conflict on every major incident between you. We're obviously part of the same team. We all want the same things. How can we resolve this? How can we work better together? It's not going to be comfortable if you're someone who is not used to conflict or not used to dealing with challenging personalities, but it is a part of this role. It's a really important part of this role as well. The next one, not leading by example. We've all seen this, and I think it's quite a challenging thing for people to reconcile in their brain. I think it's very difficult to see somebody who expects certain behaviours and certain standards, who then actively either does things in complete contradiction to those standards or seems to have a careless attitude towards them. Many of us have experienced leaders who have done that, and it feels very inauthentic. There's something about it that feels unfair and unreasonable. And now I'm not talking about leaders always doing the same kind of work as people, because people misinterpret that. Leaders' roles are often very different, and they can be more strategic in nature, and indeed they need to see things that are coming down the line, so therefore they need to do different things, and their role may require different things. But I'm talking about more in terms of professionalism. If I expect my whole team to be professional, if my team is customer facing, and I expect them, even for example, to be well dressed because it's part of the company, it's part of our standards, it would then be extremely irresponsible of me to not do that myself. So my whole team dressed very well and professionally and neat, tidy, and everything squared away, yet I come in shorts and flip-flops. It almost goes in complete contradiction, regardless if I am no longer customer facing or how I choose to do that. It's not really an appropriate behaviour, and it sends the wrong message to the team, also confuses them. So a good example of this in major incident management might be you expect everyone to be on time. So when you set up a bridge call, it's really important that we get speed in the first part of a major incident. You expect people to be punctual. And if they're not, there are conversations that happen. We're delaying the major incident. This is potentially costing us £10,000 a minute or more. So we need you on time, guys. But then you yourself as a major incident manager are always running late. Your expectations of people and the high standard that you set for them, you no longer meet. And there's something about that that feels very disingenuous. And it's very hard to both build and maintain trust as a leader and have people trust in you if your actions contradict the things that you expect from them. So I think it's very, very important that we lead by example. If we expect that from the team and we set the standard and set the expectations, we as major incident managers need to do the same thing. There's a huge number of things that we could look at, even down to the very basics of keeping the ITSM ticket, major incident ticket, updated at all times in near real time, and each individual who does anything in a major incident is responsible for updating that. If you don't do it, how can you expect technical resolving group members to do it? It's a really, really important one there. And I think that actually speaks to your whole personal brand, the way you will be perceived, and it can shift both in a positive way or negative way depending on what you do. And finally, lack of accountability. Lack of accountability is an interesting one. I think that as major incident professionals, we tend to be one extreme or the other. We tend to behave and act as if everything's our fault, so we're very, very passionate, and sometimes that leads to us trying to control things that we don't necessarily need to try and control, various variables. More often than not, that's a very positive way to behave as a major incident manager, because really the whole point of major incident management is we are end-to-end accountable for everything that happens in the major incident. It doesn't matter if someone does something you ask them not to do, etc. We're still the leader. That is part of what comes with being a leader. You have accountability for everything that happens within a major incident. And that's a gift and a curse. It's a wonderful thing. It makes the job very, very enjoyable, but at times it can be very, very frustrating when people aren't doing what you want and what you've instructed them to do, or even they're working against you potentially. The opposite of that is, and again, I think many of us at various times in our career could say we may have been guilty of this, where we blame everyone else and everything else for why something has not gone our way or not gone correctly. So a poorly run major incident, suddenly we're saying, well, the technical teams didn't turn up on time to the bridge call, they were really slow to join, and when they joined there wasn't much communication, they're not really engaging with one another, it's just silence on the bridge call, no one's really responding to me, and I escalated but management didn't really do anything, the management of the technical resolving groups or various disciplines. Couldn't get hold of service management, so we didn't understand how to access that location. All these things, or the stakeholders kept calling the technical staff, pulling off the bridge call. And what it really amounts to is we're giving a whole load of excuses as to why something didn't go well. No one cares. In major incident management, we just need the result for the organisation, for the end users. We're here to protect them. And it comes with the territory. Again, the reason it's a wonderful job is the same reason it can be a very frustrating job, is it really does all rest on us. Now, yes, people do take courses of action that we may have asked them not to. People don't do things the way we like. Sometimes people just do downright strange things that we didn't anticipate or wouldn't expect. Sometimes things don't go our way. But really, we can start examining why that might happen. And usually, if you're someone who is really embodies leadership and really considers it and has a considered approach, you'll normally find there's something we could have done differently as the leader. So for example, technical teams not turning up on time. Well, have you as the leader explained why? Do they know that potentially every minute they delay is costing us £5,000–10,000? And so if they're 10 minutes late, there's a lot of money that we've potentially just lost the company. Do they understand that? Has this consistently been an issue for a long time and we haven't had conversations with the line management to address it? Are we not actively pushing to get this resolved? And so there's a couple of things in there that maybe we haven't done as a leader. So I've talked again before about the why and how of people doing things and you wanting them to do things. What I mean by that is, if someone's not doing what you want as a leader, usually comes down to three things. They didn't know you want them to do it, they don't know how you want them to do it, so the very specific way of doing it, or they're not incentivized to do it, and that can be punishment or reward. And so as a leader, we tend to think about that. Even if I've asked somebody to do something and they go and do it in a different way, or they do it completely differently, or indeed they don't do it at all, I need to come back to the fact that, well, I'm responsible for this, I'm the leader, I'm accountable. I've given this person a task. Did I not explain the task very well? Did I not explain specifically what I needed from them? Did I not explain how important it was? Did I not check that they knew how to do it? Or did I not check that they had the appropriate resources to be able to do it? And did I not check that they felt they could do it within the time frame? So even those things, there's probably something as a leader that I haven't done. Where I'd say you see the accountability trap, let's call it, of somebody complaining a lot, most frequently, I would suggest, is probably managed service providers, shared service major incident management. And that's partly because a lot of the structural challenges that can occur there are not within the direct control of the operational major incident managers. So most of you will be fully aware of shared service major incident management and the model. Essentially, a managed service provider has a large team or multiple teams of major incident managers who are a shared resource. They will manage multiple client accounts. So you might have, 30, 40, 50 or many more major incident managers running 50, 60, 100 accounts, all different companies. And as they come in, you may get a different individual reactor each time. It means there's less tribal knowledge of each account, so less time to learn them. They can often be very fast-paced. Everyone's dealing with a lot of major incidents at the same time. They can often be brought in without an understanding of the client's business, which is very common. And you're often dealing with both your own technical resolving group members internal to the shared service managed service providers organisation, but also you're dealing with potentially other managed service providers who are suppliers to the same customer, who may in fact be competitors, don't particularly want to work well with you. You may be dealing with limitations within the client's organisation. So there is a lot more complexity, a lot more speed and a lot more pressure that comes into it. And usually as a result of that, when cracks start to form, you see people fall down that trap of not being accountable. So instead of going, well, okay, look, there are problems, there are things that have gone wrong. How do we fix this? For each client, I'm going to build a client pack where we really start to try and understand over a period their infrastructure. I'm going to try and build relationships with the other managed service providers or the other suppliers, and we're really going to work on this for the next couple of months and try and get better relationships so we get better at this. I'm going to, as the leader, I'm going to fix this, I'm going to improve it. Instead, go to, oh, well, another major incident didn't go very well, the client's not happy, well, these suppliers wouldn't work with us, and when everyone was on the bridge call, no one was really responding to me. I didn't think about, okay, well, what different tactics and models can I use? What different communication styles can I use? And so it's really easy to play that blame game. I'm not saying there aren't genuine problems, genuine things that happen. What I am saying is leaders don't sit there and make excuses. They think about what could I have done differently as a leader and what can I do next time that either prevents that situation or provides a better outcome. So those have been some of the most common mistakes I see major incident managers making. I hope you've gained some value from this. I've enjoyed talking to you. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. Thank you very much.